This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast of talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Rob.
And we are going to be joined by Paul at some point, but at least the gang is kind of back together. It's been weeks, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You good, are you? Good.
I'm all right, yeah. I'm all right. We had a break there for a couple of weeks, didn't we? You went away to Florida, gallivanting with all your mates.
I was gallivanting a little bit, has to be said.
With all the... Yeah,
What's
I
this
bet you was
break I
going,
hear about?
USA, USA, by the end of it.
Yeah, Rob didn't get any breaks, of course, because Rob's one of the hardest working men in podcasting, so...
Oh, please. Oh, stop.
You got a horse over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Ed.
Well, that's the main thing.
There's a reference target. Right. So before we get started this week, we're going to just say thank you to some people that have joined our little community. So over on Facebook, we've added Pat Gwynn, Matthew Horton, Adam Sheldon, and Ben Brown. And we'd also like to say, sorry, who else?
So there's another one as well.
Michael
Shaw.
Michael Shaw added today.
Happened in the last couple of hours.
Oh, goodness me. Sorry, I missed that. Michael Shaw.
Right. Michael Shaw, yeah.
Thank you, Michael, also. Thank you to Justin Lyon, who subscribed to the YouTube channel this week. And thank you to Adam Sheldon for becoming a TSW VIP, already very active in the community, I can see.
Yes, indeed.
And also, this is a big one, because we don't do this very often. This is a knighthood, and it's a very important knighthood. Congratulations to young Jonas Radcliffe, who became a Knight of the Commonwealth this week. I reached out to his mum and just said, is it all right if we make him a knight? And he's absolutely beside himself. So even though I couldn't promise the lightsaber or the ability to move things with his mind, it is a big deal. He is Knight of the Commonwealth. So
that is
Jonas.
Why does it say Jonas Williamson?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that, Steve.
It says Jonas Williamson on the notes.
Yes, I know, because that's wrong.
Okay.
Now I have to cut that out. But that's okay, because I can drop your...
If you'd done a type, if you'd actually said it wrong.
No, I can drop your audio. Sometimes, Steve, I know what I'm doing.
It's been known. Okay,
and now on to our review section. So we don't have any new reviews this week that I know of. Have you seen anything, Rob? Anything come through?
I have seen nothing come into the TSW mailbox.
No, I didn't see anything myself. So if you wanted to leave us a review in iTunes, and I'm sure because we put the show out on other platforms, you leave reviews there. You can benefit from our Ron Burgundy policy, which is a guarantee. Whatever you write in a 5-star review, I will read verbatim. So if you want to promote something, a podcast or a blog or a YouTube channel, that's where to do it. As long as you keep it family friendly, we will read it word for word. All right, let's get on to listener comms then. So you can send questions and comments to us via Twitter, Facebook, or you can send email and voicemail to talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. That's talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com, which is what young Ads did. Ads, Knight of the Commonwealth. We're very knight heavy this week, I've noticed. Who would like to take Ads' question this week?
Steve? Okay, I'll do it if you like.
Stephen, go for it.
Dear Paul and the TSW gang. Why is Paul getting his own name read out?
Because last week Ads sent us a question, and it was Dear Marc and the TSW gang, and Paul took exception to it. Much like he's steering a boat, he's kind of overcorrecting a little bit on this week's question.
I'll take Stevie Weavy. That'll do to me.
Next week it'll be Dear Stephen, the Talk Stars.
Hope everything is all tickety-boo this week. Exciting times as we approach the month formerly known as May, but now entitled lovingly Star Wars Saga Film Release Month. Catchy-ish. Anyway, my question is a simple compare and contrast one. I'm sure you've discussed this before, but a revisit is never bad, especially with a growing fan base. So Luke touching the blue lightsaber for the first time versus Rey touching it. Steady, Steve. Luke was unaware of its presence until Obi-Wan gave it to him, and he had no obvious reaction when he held it. Rey was called by it, followed thereafter by a powerful Force vision. Is it as simple as the Kyber crystal calling to the more fitting individual? The blue was never Luke's choice, although he may never have built the green if he hadn't lost blue having a tantrum to Dad. Does that mean he'd have always had a lesser bond with his blue? Does that ever really matter? If so, did he have a later moment with the green? This sounds very weird. I've got this orgy of lightsabers in my...
It's like a weird game of sex Cluedo.
Yeah, etc., etc., etc. So Rey hasn't chosen the blue either, so why the difference? Is there a chance that the lightsaber has already been a part of her early life somehow, building a connection with her before finding its way to the box in Maz's castle? So many questions, but hey, that's your speciality. Your thoughts, gentlemen, would be greatly appreciated. Kind regards, ads. So, breakdown. Did the Skywalker's lightsaber call to Rey, but not young Luke? That's the first part.
Yeah. Well, I think... Well done, Steve, by the way. I think this is exactly what's happened. I think the crystal in the Skywalker lightsaber had to have called to Anakin for him to have built that lightsaber initially, but then never called to Luke. That was passed to Luke by Obi-Wan, and he never had that connection with it. But it was the crystal inside the lightsaber in Maz's castle, I believe, that called to Rey. That's why she went straight to it, opened that box, and that's how she got that Force vision, is because the crystal called to her. That has to be something significant in the plot.
Yeah.
At some point that we're going to learn that she's connected. She's got a strong connection to the Force, as Anakin had when he was young, and he found that crystal. That's what I think.
Okay.
Do you think there's scope for her also being a M-word creation by the Force, willed by Plagueis or someone else, and that's the common trait she shares with Anakin?
Absolutely.
Possibly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Entirely possible. It's a hot theory doing the rounds, that one, as I recall. That, she may be... Because it's to do with... It ties in with the research facility on Jakku, right?
That's right.
That's the theory, is that there's something going on Jakku. That's why the battle is so important. That's so important that the Imperials can't lose the planet, because there's something going on there with regards to some sort of research.
So, is there a secret underground cache of Kyber crystals been found?
I don't know about that. I think the impression everybody is kind of taking from it, because I mean, obviously it's all speculation. The impression that people are getting from it is that maybe Palpatine was doing some sort of, dark side research with regards to trying to replicate the creation of life.
Yeah,
because obviously he never, he supposedly learned it from Plagueis, but he didn't really, because, well, we don't know, because obviously, we may have just told Anakin that to get him on side.
Wasn't there some canon bits that alluded to the fact that Anakin was, what's his name's son? Not son, but willed by him. What's his name?
Yeah.
The main baddie, Emperor.
That's in episode 3. Yeah.
Yes, isn't it cut out of episode 3?
No,
but
it's
if you
in
read the back, it's in. Isn't there missing script?
There might be something that hits it a little harder.
That you call, Mark? You call, the repeat of the trilogy, and you call it something. And so did George Lucas.
Oh, what, the rhyming stanza?
Yes. And he wanted almost identical wording as the Empire when Luke jumps off the Scooby and Vader says, and he says it's impossible. That was in the script in episode 3, that Anakin says it's impossible to Palpatine.
Right. Okay, right.
Now, I can't remember where I read that, but I think that is.
I can tell you it's not. I can tell you it's not in the book.
No,
I would have remembered that, and I would have brought it. I would have brought it. I've read the book recently, and I would have brought that to the table had I heard it.
Yeah, so that must have been ejected
where I heard it
deliberately.
Yeah. I'm currently Googling it now, or any other search engines are available.
Okay, well, I think looking at this thing, I think that there's definitely something significant about Rey. I saw Daisy being interviewed by Still Saunders today on YouTube, And
Okay.
she one of the things she mentioned was that a lot of people are telling her what she is, almost how significant she is, and what her fate is, and she just wants to be able to stop and catch up and learn for herself what her role is supposed to be. So if she turns up and she's told, you're the next chosen one, or you're.
Oh, I see what you mean within the film.
Yeah, she's being. Yeah,
I thought you meant like
no,
Daisy
right.
Ridley was getting told by fans like you're this, and she wanted to turn around and say, "Oh yeah."
I'm certain that's wearing thin, but no, she was saying that Rey is already overwhelmed by people telling her. I'm paraphrasing, but already overwhelmed by people telling her what she is, and what her significance is. When she just wants the opportunity to sort of find out for herself, spend some time with Luke, learn how to do what she's doing.
Okay.
So I think that there's room in there to speculate that yes, maybe she is a creation of the Force, maybe she is a chosen one. The way Plagueis created Anakin.
I'll go with her being a creation of the Force, but I think a chosen one would be muddying the George Lucas waters.
Yeah, because
there is the chosen one.
Well,
the
he
prophecy
branded that the prophesied one, didn't he?
Yeah. So maybe there
Do you
might be
want
a
me
different
to?
prophecy.
I have found it.
Okay, mate, illuminate us.
Go back. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
That's right.
It's taken from page 42 of The Making of Revenge of the Sith, which contains storyline and dialogue from George Lucas's rough draft of the script. On Coruscant, Palpatine completes his seduction of Anakin, who at first refuses to go to the dark side until the Chancellor makes a startling confession. And he says, Sidious says, I have waited for you all these years for you to fulfill your destiny. I have arranged for your conception. I used the power of the Force to will the midichlorians to start the cell divisions that created you. Anakin says, I don't believe you. Sidious says, but you know it's true. When you clear your mind, you will sense the truth. You could almost think of me as your father. That's impossible.
Oh, right,
Sidious. Nevertheless,
yeah, I can see why he cut that.
Yeah, nevertheless, you must decide. Later, this dialogue was cut, indicating that Palpatine is responsible for how creation has been cut out. I'm not sure why Lucas decided to do it, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Well, for a start, because it's crap.
Well,
and it's too close to Empire.
It's clunky,
It's
isn't it? It's one of those things that Harrison
clunky.
would have said you need to move your lips when you're typing because you can't say this stuff once it's written.
What are you doing?
How about this?
Yeah, and it's got the M word in it, which we wanted to move away from.
Of course, and I must just say, I think we've discovered that Rob does a Harrison Ford as well, which is important. I think that there's a chance here that with Luke's research...
Sorry, don't tease me like that.
We'll circle back to that.
Don't say things like that. Come on, Rob.
What?
Get Harrison out of the way so we can move on with this.
Trouble is now we've just put me on the spot and I've just forgotten every single bit of dialogue.
We can come back to it. There's room, I think, with what you've just said, Steve, and it must be said that you're on fire again, bringing this sort of stuff to the table. If this is like the rhyming stanza, and we've had it once in the original trilogy, and George was going to lay that into the prequel trilogy, which he kind of did. The framework for that thing is there. We found a way to create life. That's kind of everyone drew the same conclusion, didn't they? Anakin was created by the Sith for whatever reason. Luke is kind of a chosen one, and that element of, I mean, I'm not going to kick that fight off again. We know Anakin is the chosen one, but
Luke's important.
Luke is important. He's significant, and that exchange about no, it's not true, and that confusion over the origin and their heritage was a part of both the prequel and original trilogies. If it's going to be a part of this trilogy, does it not already seem as though Luke has been doing the research? Luke has got what we assume are the Jedi, like Jedi journals, or maybe the journals of the Wills, some sort of literature on the Force. Maybe Luke created Rey using the Force. I know we've said this before, because he wants her to be the first step towards something other than the Jedi and the Sith. She needs to be able to take what he's got, the knowledge he's got, forward into a world of balance, and not a world that's segregated by these two different dogmatic entities. Does that make sense? If that confusion over your origin thing is going to pop up in this trilogy as well and echo what came before it, maybe Luke's the guy doing the creating this time around.
I mean, you say Anakin obviously is the chosen one. Isn't there scope in this trilogy to bring that? You know, we've spoken about Force ghosts.
Yeah.
To bring that forward into fruition even more. I mean, who's to say in the trailer that isn't Luke standing there while she's wafting her lightsaber around? That could be a Force ghost. That could be Anakin. Maybe he's training her.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You know, maybe Anakin's work isn't done, and he will have some responsibilities beyond the grave. And I certainly think that's what Kylo wants. I don't think that's what Kylo's going to get.
I was about to say, I think that's true anyway because of the effect he's having on Kylo Ren. I think his legacy, the whole point is it's about his legacy as much as anything else. Yeah. And that's still true no matter whether he turns up as a Force ghost or not. I think that's still important.
This calls right back to the first series of Kessel Run things I did when they were still a tube cast. Way back when, in one of the episodes, I said, we know that the enumerated films are Skywalker sagas. And the first one is about Anakin's fall. The second part is about Anakin's redemption. And this is about Anakin's legacy, this trilogy, and the effect that he's having. And he's become an icon. It's not really Anakin now. It's the thought of Anakin. And it's the spin that Snoke's putting on Anakin's legacy that's motivating Kylo. And is probably fueling the First Order, really, isn't it? Vader's become like this figurehead almost.
So as far as the first part of that question, that's covered that. But what about the lesser bond with his father's lightsaber?
I had a thought on this actually as an overall answer to the question.
Okay.
Could urgency be a factor in the sense that when Luke gets given the lightsaber, it's kind of understood that he needs training and all that stuff. So maybe, let's say for kind of, I'll break it down simplistically. It's a little bit glib, but it will work for the purposes of explanation, that the crystals are kind of proper sentient beings and so on. So they know that, time's not, it doesn't matter if they rush. And actually it's probably worse if they do, in terms of, bringing Luke up to speed, because he's going to get some instruction before Obi-Wan sort of moves into the Force, and then obviously he's going to seek Yoda out later on and learn more. With Rey, unless she sees that vision, nothing happens.
I see.
So she has to be sort of propelled forward because there's nobody there at that point in the film to bring her forwards and develop her knowledge of this stuff. She has to be kind of thrown in at the deep end, as it were.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, because looking at what we know about kyber crystals, young Anakin, the Padawan, would have heard the crystal song as it called to him, and he would have found it, and it would have been a part of his training to have then put that into the weapon. By the time we get to Luke, it's almost like a steeplechase, and Obi-Wan runs up and passes it like the baton. Go, and that's the thing, and it's a flat out rush for 2 movies until the lightsaber's lost in the duel, and now with Rey, we're back to Crystal Song again, but it's not the same as Anakin's origin.
It's not a leisurely song. It's not like
Yeah, it's almost somewhere in between the way Anakin came into possession of that kyber crystal and the way Luke had the lightsaber thrust upon him. With Rey, it's somewhere in between. She gets the crystal song, but by now it's not a pure thing that's come out of a cave on Ilum. It's a fully functioning weapon with decades of history.
Yeah,
and it's
corrupted
just
slightly.
I'd say because it's the thing that slaughtered all the Jedi in the temple, so that has to do something to that crystal, surely. And she gets all that in a full blast, and that's why it knocks her off her feet, doesn't it, into the corridor.
Can I have a little bit of a tangent question?
Why not?
Because a lot of the stuff we talk about trying to dissect the past, it obviously all relates to what Lucas's intent was. Because if he didn't intend it and he never thought it, and it's subliminal and not written then it didn't really happen. It's us reading in something and making it up. But if Lucas thought it, then it's officially it's more canon than canon, isn't it?
What are you talking about specifically, Steve?
So I'm talking about the kyber crystals, and in particular, the last part of the question, skipped on a little bit, and about the green part of it. Did he ever have a moment with the green one? Well, obviously Vader says to him when he captures him on Endor, I see you've constructed a new lightsaber.
Yeah.
And Luke gives him a little wry look. But is there anything in that? Was there ever, was Lucas ever thinking, right, well, I know what happened in my mind. Luke went and had this massive battle, a massive journey, and found a kyber crystal that called to him. But did he ever think that? Was there ever the kyber crystal story embedded in Lucas's mind at that point?
Probably not any more than a lot of George's writing. Even when he submitted the final draft of Revenge of the Sith, he made a joke and said there's a lot of they fight in there, and it would be a throwaway thing. Like he would say, well, Luke built his own lightsaber. That would have been it for the purposes of telling the Return of the Jedi story. Yeah. We know from the shorthand that Luke went away. We see in some of the deleted scenes him actually putting the finishing touches to that lightsaber.
I've seen that in the cave.
So it's implied, and bearing in mind now how canon has evolved to include these other storytellers and these other specific storytelling tropes, we now know that in that gap of you've built your new lightsaber means that Luke went and that crystal called to him and he built that lightsaber himself. And if you look at the lightsabers, lightsabers are supposed to emulate the lightsaber of the Padawan builds a lightsaber that emulates the blade, the hilt of the master. And Luke's in Jedi, it looks much more like Obi-Wan's in A New Hope than it looks like the Skywalker lightsaber. It's a very different design. So it's almost like Luke found his own path and went off, found his own crystal, sat down and got the designs for a lightsaber from Obi-Wan, from the journals of Obi-Wan on Tatooine, and built it. And back in the day in the deleted scene, or back in the novelisation, there was a thing where he used a kiln in Obi-Wan's to sort of cure the crystal and all that sort of stuff. That's all gone by the wayside now. But you can see what the intention was, that Luke would use Obi-Wan as his template for how he was going to move forward. So he was less inclined to follow Anakin's path and more inclined to follow Obi-Wan's path, and he saw Obi-Wan as a master. So I think in there it's implied that Luke went on his own pilgrimage, found a crystal, or a crystal called to him, and he put that in. Now, I've spoken to, well, I haven't spoken to, I've tweeted to.
You've spoken to George Lucas.
No, but close, Pablo Hidalgo. Because I read a book called Heir to the Jedi, which is canon. And
it's Luke's one, isn't it?
Luke goes off on a mission between A New Hope and Empire, and he finds a grave of a Rhodian Jedi Knight, and he had a black, oily lightsaber buried with him, and Luke took it, and inside it was a green crystal because it was a green blade. And I thought, that's how Luke gets the crystal. And I asked Pablo, and he didn't answer me. So I asked again, do we know how Luke got that crystal? And he said, no, we don't know yet. So that part of the story has yet to be told.
It gets written into canon retrospectively.
It will get retconned, yeah. It will be layered in there at some point, in a comic book or in a video game or something. It will be told to us off screen.
So hang on. So the thing he comes across is not the green crystal.
That's not the green crystal.
Okay, it's been a while since I read that book. I can't remember.
So that's what
I mean. At that point in sorry, Mark.
No,
at that point in Star Wars, when Vader's telling Luke, "I see you construct a new lightsaber," as far as everyone's concerned, it's just a bit of machinery, really. At that point in time, in 1990, whatever, 1989, whatever it was. When was Return of the Jedi?
83.
84. Where did I get 89 from? Crikey, I'm getting old. In 83, I'm thinking 79. So at that point, it was just a bit of machinery.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, yeah. It was just building a weapon like you would build a blaster, and it didn't have... I don't know whether George...
It never really made sense to me, because everyone would build one because they're hyper cool.
Yeah. And
you have kids running around.
Early on, Lucas thought the swords would be much more like Excalibur, that you'd need to use two hands, and they were really heavy and really hot and unwieldy. And then obviously by the time we get to the prequels, they're not. They're these fancy little things that people can do all these pretty little swings and twirls with. But they became a different animal, and that's okay, because as long as it doesn't contradict what comes before it, that's fine.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was like a flaming heavy sword that it was all you could do to lift it.
Well, it's kind of like Kylo's, isn't it? That sort of dangerous looking thing.
Yeah, that can blow up in your face at any point.
But just to put my last comment on Ad's question, which I think is a fantastic question, which is probably why we spent nearly half hour talking about it. I want for there to be something. I want a crystal to call to Luke, and I want Luke to have to go and find it in the traditional way a Jedi did, rather than it be Luke finds a crystal in a Rodian Jedi's tomb, or Luke finds, because the other popular theory as well is that he found Qui-Gon's lightsaber in Obi-Wan's possessions, and he used the crystal from Qui-Gon's. I don't want that. I want Luke to be a fully functioning Jedi that has gone through every stage of being a Padawan. Even if he did it later in life after he'd already faced a big trial, he goes off and between Empire and Jedi, he goes off and finds a crystal and builds a lightsaber the way a proper Jedi would do it. That's what I'd like to see.
I mean, we've said it before. There's so much scope for story here in there for films.
There's loads. There's
Star
loads.
Wars story.
Yeah, there's loads. If they can find a way to do it, it would be great. I don't know whether there's enough story in building a lightsaber for one movie, but you could get away with it in a series of comic books, like a 6-issue run, and that's all valid now.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, finding that lightsaber in the book, even though it's not the crystal, that was only part of a larger story, wasn't it?
Yes, it was only part of something else.
It was because I remember that was the thing that kind of made me a little bit weird on that book, was it told a lot of stories and jumped around. So there was one bit that was so good I wished it was its whole book, and then that was sort of been one and done.
Is that the aliens, the bounty hunters on the planet? That was great, wasn't it?
It was like it played out like you say, like Alien. It was awesome. And so I wanted a whole film. I wanted a whole book or a film or whatever based on that. It sounded amazing.
Put Luke in that situation, please. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was hoping would happen, and then none of it.
No, that was all pretty weak. But, does anyone else want to add to what we've said about Ad's question there?
I think it's an awesome question.
I think
it's a great,
nailed it.
Great question.
Got our juices flowing.
Yes, indeed. Right. Okay. Excuse me. We've got a question from Dan Solo. So I'll take this one, Solo, because then we're going to go straight into Connor's Corner, Rob.
All right, mate, go for it.
Okay, so this is from Dan Solo. Hi, Mark and the gang at Talk Star Wars. I'm Dan Solo at Star Wars Sucker. Always branding this man. He is always branding.
The guy is on message.
He is a legend. My question is around the part Maz Kanata will have in The Last Jedi, especially with Laura Dern and Kelly Marie Tran being thrown into the mix, and the rumoured returns of Frank Oz, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. Will there be any time for Maz? In The Force Awakens, we saw Maz on a few occasions throughout a 15-minute window. She acted as a conduit to receiving the lightsaber and getting our heroes to the Resistance, albeit by screaming Han's name out in the presence of bounty hunters. Yeah, genius. Once our heroes join the battle amongst the castle ruins, Maz promptly disappears and we don't see her again. Lupita Nyong'o is set to return as Maz, but we'll be seeing more than just a cameo we got last time. Thanks for it and have a great show, Dan Solo. So, what happened to Maz in The Force Awakens, and will she be a part of The Last Jedi?
Did we cover this?
I know the answer to this
before. We've covered this, haven't we?
No, well, the answer to it is, I guess, no longer canon. But originally, she was supposed to come back to the Resistance base, and then they realised that she wasn't really doing much, so they decided just to cut her from that bit, rather than have her kind of, just be bumbling around.
Yes.
I'm going to take this one first, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it, mate. Do it.
I don't think she's going to have as big a part as we might think. I think for the reasons that Dan outlined about the number of different characters that are coming into this, the only way I can see her having a decent size, anything sort of meaty in terms of story, is if they follow the journey of the blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll tell you what, that's just popped into my head. Benicio del Toro. I can't know what's his name. He's one of my favourite actors.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be playing a kind of. We're kind of led to believe he's playing a kind of underhanded, bit of a dastardly character, right?
I think so. Yeah, a bit of a charlatan.
That's the impression. That's the impression we get. What if the reason they go looking for him is because that's where Maz got the lightsaber from.
Oh, that's good.
And he's a kind of, a collector of, I mean, it'd be him playing a collector again.
Yeah.
He'd be a bit typecast, but never mind.
Or a trader.
But, like a trader of kind of dodgy, black market goods.
Rare antiquities.
And that sort of thing. And so maybe he's involved in something like that, in which case she might be the one to kind of send whoever's investigating that on that path. So Finn and maybe Finn, Poe and Leia maybe, or something like that. Who knows? Or Finn and Kaylee Marie Tran perhaps.
Yeah, well, they're definitely their story seems to cross with his from what I'm hearing on MSW. The Kelly Marie Tran's Rose and Finn, their stories seem to lead directly to DJ is his code name, I think, at this point in time.
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I wonder if maybe she's the catalyst for that storyline to kind of kick off is, they go to her and say, all right, you said a story for another time. Now is another time. They go and visit her at whatever dig she set up in replacement of Takadana. And she tells them about this bloke. Then they look into it and they find he's in a prison on whatever the name of the planet is.
Canto Bight.
Canto Bight, that's the one. He's in a prison on that planet, so they have to go in and sort of work their way in to talk to him. And then from there, maybe they have to break him out for him to tell them more.
Yeah.
A bit like they did in the Poe Dameron comic.
Yeah, I haven't read the Poe Dameron comic.
It starts off strong. The bits I've read started off strong, and then kind of it's all right after that. But the kind of story, the working storyline is they go in to get information from somebody, and the person says, whoever gets me out first, between him and the First Order, whoever sort of breaks this prisoner out first gets the sort of the key to the kingdom, as it were, in terms of what he can offer this bloke. I only read it once. I'm a little bit rusty, so I may not be entirely 100% accurate on that, but that's the broad gist of it. So maybe they're kind of echoing that storyline a bit in the real cinematic, having her kind of say to him, "All right, well, you're going to need to find this guy." And they say, "Oh, where do you find him?" It's like, last time I heard, he was locked up on Canto Bight. And then they go off, and that's their story, kind of.
So it could literally just be like one of these characters in an Indiana Jones movie, like Sala or something, that pops up for 5 minutes, helps move the plot along, and then disappears. And it would make sense as well because Finn and her now have dialogue, presumably, don't they? Because of the stuff they went through at her castle.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting. Steve, what's your take on Maz's involvement in Last Jedi? Steve, you still with us?
Sorry, I had you on mute because I didn't know if that Hoover noise was me, but I didn't have a Hoover here. Sorry, that's a really strange thing to say. That's vacuum cleaner, by the way, if you're listening from one of the colonies.
Yeah. Think globally, complain locally.
Yeah. I always thought she snuffed it at the end of episode 7. Because
she did not.
I know, but was that written in afterwards, or at the time did they think, "Oh, that's the end of Maz"?
No. She originally they were going to send her to, what's it called?
Dakar, the resistance base.
Brains melted today in terms of remembering places.
She was going to be in the Dakar rally.
She was going to be in the Dakar rally. Yeah.
She was, yeah. With
Why didn't they
Bowman.
make it obvious then that she hadn't died? Because it seemed like very meh.
The last time you saw her, she hadn't died.
Yeah.
Oh, where was? Oh, she after it.
You have one.
Yeah, that's literally the last time we see her. And her responsibility in the original cut of that film was to get that lightsaber to Leia. Yeah. But since Finn had it, they didn't need to do that. But I think it's safe to assume that she left Takadana with Leia and went back to Dakar. And that would give us an opportunity here to spin her off into whatever she's doing. If she's on Canto Bight in The Last Jedi.
She could even be on Canto Bight, couldn't she?
She could be there and
setting up new digs.
And that's why Finn would go to her. Because if she is that kind of person, she's a barkeep, essentially.
Yeah.
So she would presumably gravitate to that. Yeah. Why not?
Well,
I bet she
not
gets some
necessarily
tips.
force sensitive, force knowledgeable.
Well,
Never
no,
says
she knows-
she's sensitive.
She
She
knows
has a-
Han walks in.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
She's
there's some of
obviously
that.
she's obviously attuned to it, like Chirrut is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I don't think she can. I think the scene where she wielded it was deleted, wasn't it?
it was deleted, but it's put out on the Blu-ray, and I don't think they put out
Where she pulls
stuff
the ceiling
that
down?
contradicts.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah, I know my little
Yeah, it's
bits.
good.
yeah, you know your little bits.
Scoobies.
I wonder whether or not
One or two.
she might have a micro cameo in this film, and it might just be Luke. We assume from that breakdown we did last week in the trailer that we're going to see some flashback stuff. We're going to see some elements from that Force vision that Rey had again, told from a
Luke's
different
point.
perspective. So maybe Maz
play
will,
part of that,
maybe
yeah.
she'll appear in some of this storytelling that he needs to pass information on to Rey about that lightsaber and how it got to him. So maybe Maz will appear in those sections, and that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe,
To be
yeah.
clear, though, Mark, now, I mean, I've seen this trailer obviously about 10 times, but the flashback in episode 7 where you see the rainy scene where they're all getting murdered is actually, we're pretty convinced now that's actually a flash forward, right?
I am.
No.
I'm convinced now that that's a flash forward.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just because of
And was that clever on their part, or did they?
I don't know.
Actually, should we make that a flash forward? Because that
I
kind
think
of
that's
works.
a flashback. I've actually. You guys talked me round.
Yeah, no, actually, I think you're right. I think just Kylo's wardrobe alone would suggest it's a flashback. But there was something in this new trailer that I said last week, and actually, I think Rob, you talked me down. It was Rey running along with the lightsaber lit in a scene that was lit somewhat similar to that flashback, which made me think, oh yeah, maybe that is a flash forward. But it's something we've gone back and forth on
When you
since the
say
Force Awakens
wardrobe,
came
Mark,
out.
do you mean the smashed helmet? Mm-hmm.
Well, he's got the helmet
Yes.
and the short cloak thing, and we've got an image coming up later on that shows that the Kylo we're getting in this movie is indeed wearing one of Vader's capes, and there's no helmet.
he is.
Yeah. So it's all change for theories now when you start to recalibrate based on new information. But I like the idea that scene of Rey running with the lightsaber is to confront the Knights of Ren, and it might be a take on that vision that we saw previously.
I hope they handle her abilities much better. I mean, Luke was old enough to make it very difficult to become a Jedi. She's younger, but I hope they don't make her in this one like. Well, they got to be careful now because she was already amazingly over the top Force aware in the end of 7. So if they take her back too far and say, "Hang on a minute, she was better than that in the last film."
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I've kind of put this out there, Steve, in a similar way, just to kind of temper expectations for those who are expecting her to pull Star Destroyers out of the bloody sky. I think what we're going to see more of in this film is her learning to control the raw energy, and she's not going to appear to be that much more powerful, but really she is, because what she's learning is focus and control and discipline, which is, is going to allow her to do, she's going to be able to do powerful stuff, but it probably won't appear that she's actually gaining a lot of ability since episode 7, but actually she's gaining something more valuable, which is to say to be able to control it properly.
Yeah.
Isn't that focus you're talking about exactly what Luke's going away from? Because he the Jedi ending, and if we're thinking of that as becoming grey Jedis, a bit of both, not so much focus, more raw.
Well, you missed a discussion in the last episode, Steve. One of the things that I postulated, and I'm still convinced of this, is that line in the end of the teaser is split, and that there's something in the middle.
So give me the whole line.
The line is
Time for the Jedi to end.
There's one. Yeah, there's one thing I know. There's one thing I know for sure.
I know one truth.
I know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end. I think there is something in between those two sentences, because if you listen to it, it sounds like something's gone missing, and also the only bit of that you see is the second half with Luke kind of peering at we presume Rey from outside of the cave looking in.
Yeah.
Do you think it's something like I know one truth. Mac, Dad will make you jump. It's time for the Jedi to end.
And it's all about. So the episode 9 is Dawn of the Mac Dad.
Yeah, and he does a little
crisscross shuffle. Yeah.
Obviously.
No, I was thinking it might be something like, I know one truth: if you can't learn to control your powers, it's time for the Jedi to end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be awesome.
That one came to me that one came to me since the last time I recorded. I didn't write
that's
time.
A good
that's
one.
The kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I could imagine it being, you know, or if it's like, if we can't learn to balance the light and the dark, it's time for the Jedi to end.
Yeah. I can't imagine
in order to save the galaxy or something like that.
It could be a take on.
I can't imagine they'd take us on an 8 film trip only to say, oh, well, the Jedi was all actually wrong.
But that's the biggest concern, Steve. That's people's biggest concern now, is that new story elements are going to reframe the heroes of old as fools. And I understand that completely. You don't want to think that Yoda was barking up the wrong tree for his nearly 1,000 years of life.
And also, like James at Tumbling Table's big on this. It's like it devalues the what went before, the good things about the Jedi. Yeah, you know, for all their faults, they were sort of pure of heart and stuff.
Yes,
their intention was good.
That's a really nice message just now as well, by the way.
This could be.
It says, look to the clock, realise you're probably recording. Just wanted to say, break a leg, another gem, I'm sure. Isn't he nice?
He is a nice guy.
Oh.
This line, could it be a play on Yoda's line when Yoda was giving Luke a hard time on Dagobah in Empire with, well, if he can't do it, then the Emperor's already won and all this sort of stuff, you know. Will he finish what he started? He's our only hope. All of this pressure. Is this Luke pressuring Rey? If she's trying...
So do you think, is Luke talking to a Force ghost?
No, I think that's one possibility.
It could be that, but
I think he's talking to Rey, and I think what you just said, Rob, is stimulated a lot of ideas. If he's trying to train Rey, and like we said, Daisy mentioned in her interview with Steele that
don't meet your heroes.
Ridley's don't meet your heroes for a start because they'll disappoint, and also she's being told constantly what she is, and she's trying to learn for herself what she is. She's trying to find her own path.
I was just kind of coming to something similar.
So if Luke treats her as, right, you're the next new hope, let's get your training going. She's like, hang on a minute, I'll need a second to sort of understand what's happening to me. And he's like, no, you've got to be ready to go now and fight the First Order and confront Snoke. There's
no time to...
there's no time to muck about it. The way Ben and Yoda treated him when he was learning, and if he said, look, if you can't do this, then it's time for the Jedi to end. If you can't step
just to get
up...
her
to motivate her, to push.
She's in a rut at that point with her training.
Yeah,
I think that makes complete sense.
Here's another possibility as well, actually. They're talking about her past, and she says, there's a discussion going about how much he knows about her past. So maybe she's seen something in a Force vision or something like that about, he knows more than he's letting on about where she comes from.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm not ready to tell you, you have to find out for yourself, or some fob off that's designed to sort of build suspense for when it eventually comes out. And she says, you need to tell me the truth. You need to start telling me the truth or I can't trust you. And he kind of turns around to her and says, I know one truth. If you can't trust me, then it's time for the Jedi to end.
Yeah. And what do we know about the Jedi's opinion on attachments? If you,
not a fan.
She can't have attachments, so she doesn't need to know where she come from. So if she's constantly asking, who am I, where do I come from? Well, that's not the Jedi way. Jedi are taken from their family when they're children. They don't have attachments. They're brought up in the temple, aren't they? So if she can't move past that, she's not going to train. She's not going to become this new thing. And it might be the same way Luke almost rebelled against Obi-Wan and Yoda's training and went his own way and got a better result. Maybe Rey will do the same thing. And the way Luke's trying to shape her into something will lead to her saying, no, I'm going to step off that line. I'm going to find my own way, and she'll get a better result, which might be Kylo's redemption, saving Kylo from Snoke. I think this is fascinating, though. It's a fascinating line of thought that line is a big tease, And even though the intention is the same, that missing piece of dialogue could be a massive key that unlocks everything, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I know one truth.
I think it's in there. That's the impression I get, is the fact that you don't see him deliver the first half is deliberate, because the first half is something else.
Yeah, I mean, they know people podcast and
of course
video, the vlog this to death, don't they, these trailers? And they have to be a bit clever with it all. Otherwise it will get...
You should have felt the ripple in the room, Steve, when he said that line when they first played the trailer, because only a certain amount of people heard it, because we were at the back of a crowd of what must have been thousands of people looking at a big screen. So when he said the line, "It's time for the Jedi to end," the temperature in the room changed, and everyone was like, "No!" And we was going, "What? What was said? What was said?" And someone leant over and said, "Oh, that was Darth Vader that spoke." And we said, "What?" And ran off and watched it on our phones. And then I put two and two together. As when Luke said that, you could feel it. It was palpable.
It's palpable. Emperor palpable.
It was Emperor palpable. It was. No one expected it, and no one liked it. Everyone hated the fact that Luke could do that.
Maybe they're using that as a gauge. I don't know.
Of course.
Could it be that that's not even in the film?
Well,
it's made for the trailer.
Absolutely.
That's definitely a thing. I think that's a dangerous game to play now, especially with something as provocative as that. I think even cognitively reframing it the way we've discussed it this evening is a gamble. But it does place Luke firmly in a position with his relation. What we've discussed place Luke firmly in a position within his relationship with Rey. You need to step up and deliver, or the Jedi are going to go away. Not what we're all thinking now, which is, Luke's gone to the dark side, or Luke's barking mad, or Luke wants the Jedi to die so that the Grey can rise. No, it could be as simple as Rob said. He's just saying, get your stuff together, because you're going to have to deliver, or we're going to put all this stuff down. That's, I think that's just a thrilling and exciting theory, Rob.
Well, like I say, I'm gonna put it down there now. A prediction locked in as early as April.
Yeah.
Which would be it's May Day by the time this comes out, isn't it?
Yeah, May Day.
So May the 1st, I'm saying categorically those words from that teaser are delivered in the film, but not in a continuous line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's May the 1st. I'm making that call. Lock that in. We'll get that.
I need to try and talk you into writing a Star Wars Insights on the site for this, Rob. Get your thoughts out there in print. That would be.
Don't need a lot of convincing.
Yeah, no, I think you need to get that down, mate, because that
and
one's
get
really
your top
compelling.
4 and do a Twitter poll. Be our return of the Twitter polls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could do something with that. I've got an idea for that. I'll mix what I said and what Paul said.
Right, Dan. We wandered off of your Maz thing there, but then that is what we all want to do. Unfortunately, we are like a bag of cats in a tornado.
Totally worth it. I'm sure he'd be happy enough when he hears what we said.
Personally, I think Maz will have a tiny piece in some sort of throwaway scene. Rob thinks that maybe Maz will play a part on Canto Bight, and she will be the connective tissue between Finn and Rose and their possible mission. And Steve likes hedgehogs. Right, let's move on to our break. And
he really does.
If we go to our quick break, and then when we come back, we'll jump into Connor's Corner and we'll see if we can get Paul into the call, because he's having an absolute nightmare at the moment. We will be right back. If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you can help us keep the lights on here at TSW. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will elevate you to VIP status. As a TSW VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream that provides you with fun downloads like HD wallpapers for your desktop, tablet and mobile device, ringtones and text alerts courtesy of our very own audio Jedi at Rob Wade Vision. You'll also receive a monthly newsletter with news about what's going on here at Talk Star Wars, and you'll get a priority release of the new Star Wars audio commentary series called TSW Feature Comms. All this for as little as £1 per month. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always.
And we're back. So, as you've just heard, you can find out all about becoming a TSW VIP at talkstarwars.co.uk/support. Did you know one of the first people to become a TSW VIP was Connor? I was as surprised as you. And yet here we are with the segment that always follows the VIP spot, or at least it does now, Connor's Corner featuring Leo. So, Connor writes thusly. Everybody drink. Good day, gents. I hope you're all well and in good health. Yeah, that was me on that. Thanks for indulging me on my misinterpretation of the commentary regarding Vader's scene last week. So after several viewings of the Last Jedi teaser, which at first I have to admit I was lukewarm towards it. I know, blasphemy. So I see what you did there, Connor. But it was as Paul said last week. The Rey on the cliff was too Karate Kid at first. I have now since gotten over it after taking counsel from my son, which as usual leads us down the rabbit hole. The new planets look awesome. The red dust with the new craft are jaw-dropping. We all tried to glean as much information as possible from that little teaser, which is always fun, and we got well carried away. I've no idea what that's like. Anyway, all these beautiful locations are great, but do you think we'll see a return to any of the classic locations in the new films? Something for us older 40-somethings to go, oh yeah, I remember this. I know this is Star Wars for a new generation, but we still invested too. I know 3PO can speak 6 million forms of communication, and that would suggest there are places and species we've yet to see. But what about the stuff we grew up with? I've not suggested we nip back to Hoth because Luke has to feed the Tauntauns here, but something familiar. Or do you think Disney wants to keep moving not away but forward from the old locations? What I'm saying is I miss Tatooine, damn it. Is there any reason to go back, or should we just keep on getting new locations? It's just some of these places are just as important as the characters that live within them, in my opinion anyway, and of course, from a certain point of view. Thanks, gents, and as always, we look forward to hearing your take on this. Your friends, Connor and Leo. P.S. I'm using the same sign-off this week because I want the voice missing from last week's podcast. Connor, you're in luck, mate. My voice is back up to it. This email was brought to you by Borg Gullet Insurance Claims. If you're lying, we'll know.
Lies!
Hopefully that was Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
I just realised I didn't break down Connor's thing, but I think it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Will we return to the classic planets? Yeah. What do we think? No, you don't think we will?
I'd like to. I'm kind of
I totally agree with him, but I can't see it happening.
I think
because they want to wow people with new stuff all the time. They don't realise that half the beauty of it is in what you already know.
Yeah. The other thing also to keep in mind is a friend of mine, I've mentioned him on the show before, a friend named Brad, has said this before, and I think it's quite a common viewpoint, but he's the one who sticks in my head as having mentioned it. When you go back, if you go back too heavily to the stuff from the old trilogy, it makes the galaxy feel smaller.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're constantly showing new planets and, maybe the characters are similar, but they're, the aliens and stuff. Like there was an alien that got sort of unveiled from the Han Solo movie, didn't it, this week?
Yes, yeah.
And it looks like a Gran, but with more eyes.
Yeah, it's a really great design.
Like, why can't it just, it's beautiful. And people were like, oh, why can't it just be a Gran? I was like, well, I can see the appeal of it being a Gran, but at the same time, that could be something from the same solar system. And also it makes the galaxy feel larger. So
you
I
can
think
fit
that's
that entire galaxy on a USB stick.
Well, yeah, but well, actually, no, you can't because it was a bit missing. And I bet you anything, it got to like 90% and said storage media full.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then
they
it was like, for God's sake,
NTFS.
I'm going to have to. R2, can you just copy the last bit, and then we'll just tie them back
we'll
up.
Join up later.
And I get
they formatted it to NTFS instead of FAT32.
That's what it is. It happens to the best of us. So Luke, if you're listening, mate, don't worry too much about it. It happens.
It should have loaded it straight on the internal storage of the USB B8.
Oh God, Mark!
Thank you. You're
welcome. I might have to kill you. You're only a mile away.
Yeah, I think I think I see both sides of this argument, and I do agree with the people that say we missed the original aliens. Like, where are the Rhodians, and where are the Gran, and where are the Weequay, and where are the I'd like to see all of those things again.
Yeah,
like when we went into Rogue One, and we see the old style stormtroopers, and we see Ponda Baba on that planet.
Yeah,
that was all awesome. It was all great, and there was a Twi'lek in there, wasn't there? It was Bib Fortuna's cousin.
Yeah,
all of that stuff was great, and I'd like to see that peppered in the new movies. I'd like to see a Rhodian here and there because they're great.
Yeah, I will say also that one point of view that I've heard about it where it feels like it was missing, and I totally agree, is Maz Kanata's tavern.
Yeah.
There's so much scope to put a couple of old familiar sort of species in there, and I don't think
but they all died. Everyone in there died, didn't they?
What, during the panic? During the establishing shot?
Yeah. Yeah,
that was a rough old landing they stuck in the Falcon. They just
but you know what I mean.
Through the door. Hey, Mars.
Yeah, but
they would have all snuffed it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but that's fine. Yeah, as long as you should have packed out the members of that establishment.
Be a mix.
There should have been some familiar. Why not just see a Doug wander through on his hands? Or,
exactly.
we could.
You
could definitely do that. You can definitely do it, and not doing it calls attention to itself.
And where people
but wasn't the werewolf there?
There was a werewolf-like character, but I don't think
that was
necessarily the same one.
That was from the Ralph McQuarrie. There were triplets, weren't they? They were from a Ralph McQuarrie concept painting. That's why they were in there.
Okay, it wasn't the guy from the cantina.
It wasn't the guy from the cantina.
Not the same guy, but the same species.
The same species. So I think not having those characters in there calls attention to itself and ruffles a lot of feathers. And I think conversely, if we go back to Hoth or back to Tatooine, that's going to start to call attention to itself, where people are going to say, well, the universe is small. There are other planets out there. And with every Star Wars movie, we've gone to a new location, haven't we? We rarely go back. I know we've
gone to at least one in every film,
Yeah, we dropped back to Tatooine in Return of the Jedi, but that was unfinished
we
business.
Also go to the first moon of Endor, which is completely distinct.
Yeah. So I like, I love, like Connor said, I love the look of Crate with that white surface and the red
stunning.
dust. It's really
Absolutely
nice
stunning.
to have something original. And like we often circle back to this, don't we? That you need to register where you are in Star Wars at a second, like a split second. You need to know exactly where you are. Or I'm in a new location. And if you've got something that looks a little bit too close to where you've been before, it can get confusing. Like Attack of the Clones, when you've got Obi-Wan on the red Geonosis and Anakin on the red Tatooine at night. So it gets very confusing. You need to have very distinct
environments.
Places.
And I think that's why
I think they call them, Marc.
Yes.
I think that's why they were really quick to announce that the planet of Episode 7 was called Jakku, because people would have assumed Tatooine otherwise.
Well, we all did, didn't we? When we saw that initial concept art and there were two suns. There were definitely two suns.
Yeah, we're like, are they going back to Tatooine? And the answer was eventually no, but the fact that they came out and said, oh no, this is a new planet, it's called Jakku, is probably because they knew that people would connect those dots erroneously if they were left to their own devices, and then be partially disappointed but also kind of relieved if they're honest with themselves.
Here's an extra little piece as well. I threw this out. I think I was talking to the guys at Tumbling Saber about this. What is it with all these deserty planets? And the fact that when you have a deserty planet, usually there's a force-sensitive being sat on it. We're looking at Tatooine, obviously, Jakku with Rey, and Jeddah with not Baze, Chirrut. And I was looking at it thinking, well, maybe in the Old Republic there was a Sith superweapon that was capable of devastating planets of significance. And that's why Jeddah is in ruins, because
there was a Legends one. There's nothing been mentioned in new canon, I don't think.
No, but they can bring these things back in and recanonize them, can't they?
Sure. Yeah.
So is there a chance that Jeddah was in ruins because the Sith destroyed it with a super weapon? And did they also destroy Tatooine and Jakku with a super weapon?
Yeah, Jakku was supposed to be verdant, wasn't it?
Yes.
Originally. Supposed to be like not an ocean world, but it was supposed to be quite a green world.
There was supposed to be vegetation. And there was some stuff in the Ahsoka book about the Empire sort of ruining planets by over-farming them and leaving them desolate. And
that's certainly what happened to Jeddah City, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I guess there's sort of room to suggest that might be.
Well, they had. I read somewhere the other day that they had 250,000 Star Destroyers at one point.
Really?
Okay.
And they were being made on a ring around the planet.
Oh, yes, like a docking
shipyard.
ring. Yeah.
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 And there was 250,000 at one point, and each one had, was it it might have been 50,000 staff, for want of a better word. That's a lot of mouths to feed.
That's assuming they're all crewed with a full complement. Not necessarily. Yeah. If it's still the one that was in Legend, it's called Sluis Van, the shipyard.
Oh, okay.
Because that's an important piece in the original Thrawn books.
Right.
Good bloody books.
I think
if people haven't read them, ignore the fact they're not canon anymore and just read them anyway. They're so good.
Yeah, just go to talkstars.co.uk/books.
You're on this.
I know. There isn't the old Thrawn
throw
trilogy on there.
Throw you a test every now and then.
Yeah, I think maybe we could, in these new movies, maybe we could stand to return to somewhere like Endor because of the Vader funeral pyre.
Yeah.
But other than that,
exactly.
let's keep moving forward.
Well, it'd be great to see the crashed Death Star, wouldn't it? Because pieces of it would have entered the atmosphere.
That was part of an early draft of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, because didn't the Millennium Falcon go underwater?
Underwater, yeah. Through the wreckage.
Blimey.
And I'm sure there's some significance there with Vader's crystal. We're going to touch on something in the news.
It's just about making sense of it, isn't it? As long as the way it's included is sensible and doesn't just have you going, they've just done that for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Like none of the stuff in Rebels, none of the Rebels cameos in Rogue One felt forced. They all made sense if you look at the big picture.
Yeah, and they threw them away, didn't they?
Yeah, they were blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah.
And to the point where first time I saw it, I did blink and miss Chopper.
Yeah.
But the point is, once you've kind of processed where they are, it makes perfect sense as to why they do there. So it doesn't feel contrived. It just feels like, oh yeah, okay, fine, and it doesn't distract from the film either. That's why it's having some familiar aliens on Takodana would have made perfect sense and wouldn't have taken anything away from the film, especially if you mixed up the characters with some newer species.
Yeah, that I'm completely on board with. I think we absolutely need more of that. We need more of the familiar aliens.
Maybe Canto Bites are on you, where we'll get that stuff.
I hope so.
That'd be cool.
So. Unless, there could be an argument made that the old aliens we saw are denizens of ruined backwater worlds. That's where those races kind of gravitate towards. They get pulled into those sort of areas. Yeah. And Canto Bite looks like it's going to be much more sort of near human species. Yeah. Because
humanoid species.
They're going to be more moneyed and they're going to be more politically engaged. So perhaps...
Yeah, because it's a core world then.
It's a core world, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Connor, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And we all love those planets. And if we could find a way to organically include them in the story, then yeah, go to them. Otherwise, leave them and move forward.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't want to cheapen it, do we?
No.
It's awesome though. Thanks for your question again, Connor.
Yes, as always, a top-notch question. It's got the creative juices flying.
Indeed. Right, are we ready to get into some Star Wars news?
Sure.
All right.
Because there's a couple of really interesting bits in here this week. So something that came out of Star Wars Celebration was Still Saunders got to spend some time with cast and crew of The Last Jedi, which I'm very envious of. And one of the people he spoke to was Kathleen Kennedy. We'd mentioned his conversation with Daisy about Rey. In the same session, he spoke with Kathleen Kennedy about the original Star Wars films. And he asked her if they would ever return to the original movies and perhaps restore the theatrical cuts to their pre-special edition glory. And Kathleen said no. She laughed, said that they will always be George's films, and she said, "You've got to be kidding. I would not touch them." How do you feel about that news? Because it's almost certain now we can draw a line under the original cuts of those movies being made available to us.
I'm fine with it, and it's kind of unsurprising because I've been banging on this particular drum a few times in the last couple of months. The new approach of Disney and Lucasfilm as a kind of propulsive entity is done with the utmost deference and respect to the man who made it all possible.
Yeah.
And you only had to look at the reaction and the deal they made of his appearance at Celebration to see that the fans also hold him in a certain amount of esteem, irrespective of their feelings on earlier dialogue decisions in previous films. I think that the fact that he got such a warm reception at Celebration is also probably a factor behind it. It's like, well, then we're definitely not touching these.
Yeah.
Look how, he was a rock star that day. Beyond.
Did you see him, Mark?
I didn't get into the actual panel, but we watched him on the big screen. And it
Viewing's
was
kind of different there, isn't it?
It is an absolute nightmare, Steve. Perhaps we'll after Dark Side a bit of it, but yeah, well, I was not. It's a young man's game, that not for me.
No,
but Rob, you're absolutely right. He was treated like a god.
Yeah,
on stage,
as is perfectly reasonable to do, and I'm all for it. I have a tremendous amount. Even when I don't agree with stuff he's done in the past, I still have a tremendous amount of respect for him for the sheer imagination and vision that brings this stuff to life and enables us to, enjoy it so many years on because of how rich he made that world with the lightest of touches. Yeah, yeah.
And the endless chances that he took to bring his story
to us. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I'm not surprised in the slightest that they've turned around and said that. I'm kind of, like I say, I'm fully on board with it.
Steve?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I'm assuming the original movies won't be the ones that he touched and ruined himself with the who shot first thing. But yeah, as long as there's so many versions out there already. Why would they want to touch it anyway? It's just like, it's almost like taking the mick in it if they do it again.
Well, there is that, isn't there? There is the money for old rope accusation that I think would be quite harmful.
And let's be fair, Lucasfilm and Disney are not having any problems printing money from this franchise at the moment.
No.
They are doing extraordinarily well, and there's no need to, the well is very, very full of fresh water. There's no need to go deeper on this one.
Yeah, I'm with both of you. I think that even though I don't agree with a lot of what George did in the special editions, they are his definitive editions.
Yeah.
Being an owner of the original versions, as the DVD special feature, they are not great. So we certainly aren't asking for the originals. We're asking for another version.
We're asking for a romanticised version that's in our heads.
Yeah, the pick and mix special we want. We want to be able to pick up the bits we want and put down the bits we don't. And in the future, with branching technology, it might be possible to take things out and put things in where you want to. And then you'll have your own mix and match movie. But at this point, I will take those movies as George's visions with all of their flaws as I perceive them, because the version I really want doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's like let's say it's romanticized and it's a kind of a fantasy cut that doesn't actually hold any sway in reality.
Exactly, and I'm reassured completely by Kathleen Kennedy's reaction to this question, because it does show that they're treating George with respect, which means we can trust. I think maybe this is a leap of faith, but I'm going to trust them with Star Wars and with canon and with these characters that are beloved now, just because this is the signal that this is sending. No, we're going to respect what George's vision was, even though it took him 20 years to get to that vision, and we've lived with that for 20 years. We're going to leave it at that and move forward. And there's no room for any more speculation now, because I think that draws a line under it.
Yeah, indeed.
So I'm reassured that they're respecting him and they're respecting Star Wars, and they've got respect for us. So that's all good.
Yeah.
Well done, Kathleen. All right.
It's total pro.
Total pro, yeah. We really admire her. Last Jedi news. So this was, there's two things here. There's the costumes, which we'll get to in a second. That was a late addition. And then there's this rumour about Luke's necklace in the Last Jedi. Did you see this week?
I haven't. No, this is funny enough. When I saw it in the show notes, it's the first I've heard of it.
Right, it popped up.
I saw it, but I couldn't see what they were talking about.
Right, this is something that popped up on the MSW. And it's somebody who's a source of Jason's and is trustworthy, and he said that Luke wears something around his neck that he described as looking like a carved wooden dog whistle,
Right.
which is quite an eccentric way of describing a necklace. But apparently he's got this necklace around his neck, and in it is a small red crystal.
Okay.
So that got everybody thinking.
Yeah.
It blew a lot of minds. And I'm wondering whether or not this is a part of, mind you, not the whole thing, Vader's kyber crystal out of the lightsaber lost on Death Star 2. Because if it is a part of that crystal and Ben Solo got the other part, that would explain that blade in Kylo's lightsaber, which
Why
is
it's
what
not working properly.
and I've been saying that for ages. To be fair, like you, Rob, we were planting your flag in the ground over this theory of yours with the Last Jedi line. Way back at The Force Awakens, I said, I think Kylo's lightsaber's got Vader's crystal in it. And that was the story of the perfect weapon. That's why the blade is ragged. We know from the visual dictionary for The Force Awakens that at the heart of Kylo Ren's lightsaber, the kyber crystal is cracked.
Yeah.
So why can't it just be a chip of the kyber crystal off of Vader's and Luke's got the other part?
Would it be powerful enough with only a small piece to actually power the full saber to a full length?
I've seen.
Well, it's only a chip, isn't it, that's come off of it?
That's what I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Is unless Luke's got the really small piece and Kylo's got the big piece.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be like a standard size. Because I thought about this, and I think it's Catalyst actually, not the Rogue One book. I think it's in Catalyst where Krennic shows Lyra. I think he shows Lyra or Lyra Urso and Galen Urso a little box, and he opens it up, and there's kyber crystals in there.
Yeah,
and he gives. This is how he seduces Galen. He gives Galen a look at this kyber crystal and says, "Look how pure this is."
Yeah,
that it's a very creepy, and this book is so well written. It's a very creepy.
Catalyst is wonderful
because it's almost. I don't know about you, Rob, but the hit I got off of this part of the story was this is a Nazi with a box of gold teeth. You know, it's that kind of thing. These crystals came out of Jedi lightsabers.
Yeah, freaky,
so it's
nasty.
the creep. It's the spoils of war, right? And they describe.
Well, I mean. I didn't go quite as far as you, but I kind of got a similar vibe. Yeah.
It just I found it really like irksome, and and when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, they've really gone for that kind of. These are the things that we've picked off the dead. You know, it's like kind of gross, really. But they describe them as being finger-sized, the kyber crystals.
Okay.
Now, if you look at Rebels, when
much smaller,
Ezra finds his kyber crystal, it's tiny. Yeah. It's like a Rice Krispie. Yeah. So you've got. There's room in there to suggest that they can be either size, and maybe it's about focusing not just the size of the crystal, but how you focus that crystal. If you've got a larger crystal, you've got more to work with. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be the crack.
So how did Vader's lightsaber get cracked then? Why was it taken apart? Is that another canon story or?
I think it is, but I don't think anyone's noticed yet. And I haven't heard anyone but me say this, and it's frustrating the hell out of me.
Here's a question then. I'm going to play devil's advocate with this.
Go on in. We've got a bit of noise on the line, Steve. Is your mic rubbing your chin?
A little bit, yeah. It's actually rubbing the cat.
A quick devil's advocate question then.
Mm-hmm.
Why, if Luke wants to celebrate the man his father was, why doesn't he spend his time tracking down the blue one instead?
I haven't really thought, because this is all quite new this week.
Because that's who he died with, the red one, didn't he?
He died with the red one, yeah. But then that was Vader dying, not Anakin, and hence why the Force Ghost is Hayden Christensen and not Sebastian Shaw. Yeah,
the lightsaber itself went into Death Star 2, right, with his hand. It went down the shaft that the Emperor went down. Mm-hmm. So my theory has always been that when the Death Star exploded, Endor got peppered with shrapnel from the Death Star. Yeah. And we know that in an early draft for The Force Awakens, the Death Star was in a river or in an ocean. It's underwater somewhere on Endor. And then you got the Perfect Weapon book, which I can't see why no one else is seeing this. The book is called The Perfect Weapon. And it's about somebody who's been, Bazine Natal is hired to go and find this mystery item and bring it back to her client. And that mystery item was found by a stormtrooper that was stationed on Endor, and he picked up this thing that he found on Endor and kept it with him as a trophy from Endor, and it was interned with him in his tomb. And Bazine Natal breaks into the tomb, takes the box. The book ends with her driving away in the speeder with this box on her lap. She pops it open, and the prize is inside. Now, they don't say what it is. The book's called The Perfect Weapon. Why would it be Darth Vader's helmet, which is what a lot of people think it is?
Yeah, the box didn't sound big enough to have a helmet in it.
It never seems big enough. She's in the tomb with the stormtrooper's body and the box containing this mystery item. How on earth is that giant helmet? Yeah. It can't be. So I'm.
And is this book canon?
This book is canon, but they're never explicit. It's got to be.
Isn't it?
It's called The Perfect Weapon. I can't keep hitting that thing enough. It's screaming out to me.
Crystal from the Death Star's
firing laser ring.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's the lightsaber, and I think Kylo. Well, I thought Kylo hired Bazine Natal because we know she's got ties to the First Order because we see that in The Force Awakens. He hires her to go and get it, so she brings him that, and then he takes the kyber crystal and builds his own weapon. Now I'm starting to think that maybe Luke hired Bazine Natal to get the weapon, and he had it at the school where and maybe he brought all of Vader's stuff from Endor back to wherever his school was, and that's where Ben Solo becomes obsessed with it, and that's where he gets everything. And he takes part of the crystal, and Luke's left with part of the crystal. You know, like in the Lord of the Rings, there's a sword. I know all the swords have names, don't they? And I don't know what the sword's name is, but it's the.
Sorry, I'm just.
Illidual.
It's the sword that is broken on the tray.
Not Bane's. Oh, what's it called? Yeah, it's Andul's Air.
And it's reforged, isn't it? And it's the one that Strider. I think
it's Aragorn.
Aragorn. It's his.
Yeah, I'm
they
sure
reforge
it's,
it and he uses it. So why?
James at Tumbling Saber is spinning in his grave right now, and he's not even dead. That's how bad we're butchering the Lord of the Rings talk.
No, I'm going to cut all this together, and I'm going to sound like a pro. But all
right, fine.
The way that sword was broken on a tray, couldn't Luke have had items that belonged to Vader in the school, a shattered crystal, and Kylo took a piece, and he had a piece? That could be the thing.
Flame of the West.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
And it's Illidual's Air. I think it's something to do with it.
All right. So then, why is Bazine Natal then working for the First Order in Force Awakens?
Yeah, it makes more sense for it to be.
For it to be Ben.
It makes more sense for it to be Ben. Yeah.
But then the question becomes, how does Luke
get it?
Unless, oh no, that's no good. I was about to say maybe it's Ben's crystal, but then he'd have to get Ben's saber, which he probably doesn't have access to because, well, we don't know what happened to that, to be fair. But I imagine it's probably not, Vader didn't have a little quarters that was like a little cupboard that says lightsabers go in here.
This is not what I believe, but there's one option that maybe Bazine Natal is hired to get the lightsaber for Ben. And maybe he uses Vader's lightsaber initially, and him and Luke have a confrontation, and Luke destroys Vader's lightsaber, and Ben flees with what's left of it and builds a new lightsaber with the fragment of the crystal, and Luke keeps the fragment of the crystal from the clash with Ben as a reminder of how south things can go and how rapidly they can do so. But I do. Sorry, Rob.
So they described it as he said like a wooden dog whistle, right?
Yeah, with a crystal in it.
Could it be? Yeah. So the crystal bit, I'm going to kind of selectively ignore because it's still speculation at this point, although it's kind of reasonably good intel. Yeah. What if that carving is actually just a piece of a force tree from another planet? So maybe even Dagobah.
Yes.
Maybe he's been back to Dagobah, but maybe that's Yoda's crystal inside there.
Red?
Didn't say. Well, red might not be accurate. It might be a lighting thing.
It might not be accurate. You're right.
Why did you say whistle? Was it a whistle?
No,
That's just the shape of
it's
it.
just the description.
Yeah,
Where they describe
it doesn't look
as
like
a
it's not a whistle.
It could be
No.
wood from from Vader's funeral pyre.
Could also be that.
It depends how much Luke is celebrating that part of Anakin's life, though, doesn't it? Because that would
This
be
is
kind of
why
weird.
it doesn't gel for me. Is why would you celebrate? Yeah, you could celebrate his redemption.
Yeah.
But like I say, if you're going to do that and you're going to task somebody with finding a lightsaber for you, it makes far more sense to find his blue one than to find his red one.
I'm just going to throw this out now because this just
Right.
struck me as interesting. Even though I do prefer my other theory because it ties in the Perfect Weapon book. But
Yeah.
what if Ben took Luke's green lightsaber and bled the crystal red?
Oh, I like that.
And maybe he overdid it and it broke. And
I really like that.
And that's what's at the heart of this tri-bladed lightsaber. And that's why Luke's kept.
So he's kept the red one.
He's kept the red chip
That's all
to
he's got.
remind
That's
him.
the only one he's got now. And then we'll actually see him ignite a red one by the end of the film.
It's
Possibly.
very hard to convey in a story that's supposed to be quite light and easy to understand.
This is true. There are ways and means of doing it.
You could tell it. It could be most of these things. Most of these flashback things could be stories that he tells Rey, cautionary tales. Like when Obi-Wan sits down and he basically tells the story of the original, the prequel trilogy, in one brief scene with Luke. Like he was a good friend. You know, your dad was a great pilot. He was a good friend.
It felt really bad cutting both his arms, one leg off. Both his legs and one arm.
There's
the
a
other arm
chicken
off.
duck-faced woman thing looking for us in the bushes of love.
I don't mind telling you, I felt bloody awful.
No, but that's another option, isn't it, that Ben Solo was dabbling and he bled Luke's crystal, and maybe we won't see the green lightsaber again because what's left of it is hanging around Luke's throat, bled,
Maybe.
and is a reminder of how sour things can go with the apprentice. I prefer the Perfect Weapon story, but there's nothing
so do
but
I. That sounds
possibilities
awesome.
here.
It does seem unusual to write the perfect weapon if it doesn't tie into anything like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Unless it is Kylo hiring Bazine Natal and she's going off and getting all sorts of stuff for him, and it's not necessarily that weapon. But they don't even have to be mutually exclusive, do they? That green crystal, that crystal around Luke's neck could have been the green-bladed lightsaber that Kylo bled, and he also could have hired Bazine Natal and this crystal be Vader's cracked crystal in the tri-bladed lightsaber. It could be any of these. It could be any and all of these things, couldn't it?
Lots of things.
But I do like the idea that Adam Driver's character, Kylo Ren, why did that escape me? Goodness me. I like the idea of Kylo Ren bleeding a crystal and getting caught.
Yeah.
And it's the green crystal that he was bleeding.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay. God, we got a lot out of that little room, didn't we? Goodness me, we did.
Yeah, maybe that's why Luke kicked him out of the
back, baby.
training centre.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
He has to, it's a good point. He has to have gone away and come back with his mates, hasn't he?
Yeah. So he's definitely, at the time of Claudia Gray's book, Bloodline, that's when it would have gone off.
Well, that we assume.
We assume, because
bearing in mind that we only have Leia's sort of point of view on it, and as far as she knows, Ben and Luke are off exploring. So actually, for all we know, it's gone sour just before that point because Ben's found the information out from another source.
That's what I was going to say. Well, kind of what I was going to say was that just because finding out his grandfather was actually Darth Vader is the thing that completely pushes Ben over the edge, doesn't mean that Snoke wasn't working on him before. And
exactly.
And he was dabbling in the dark side before and doing these things like bleeding crystals and whatever. And who knows what else? All that mind control junk that he does in The Force Awakens, he might have been doing that all over the school for all we know. Might have been a proper menace. Always in Jedi detention. What if they use that term, Steve?
Report cards with sad faces. Sent to Han and Leia.
Did Rob Cast tell you about the fact that he met all the what are they called? The Adam Drivers from Saturday Night Live. You know, the Kylo Rens in Mats.
No.
On Saturday Night Live, they did a skit where they were on the Death Star, and Kylo Ren was in disguise doing an undercover boss.
Oh, yeah, undercover boss.
He dressed up as Matt, who was a technician, like a guy with a blonde wig and everything.
Yeah.
And he kept freaking out on everybody, and they were commenting on him. Well, there was a bunch of Matts at Celebration going around, all dressed up. It was perfect.
It's amazing.
And Rob got their attention by shouting right from the back of the room when there was a big crowd of them. They were having their photograph taken, and Rob Cast screamed, "Kylo Ren is a punk bitch!" And they all went, "No!" And they went running over to him, and they gave him that card that he gives the guy. "Sorry, I killed your son." Smiley face. It was it was really, really funny.
That's what it was. I saw that card, and I didn't quite.
That's what it was. It was from the Saturday Night Live skit. It was really good. All right, Star Wars Episode 9 news. So, hang on a minute. We've got the Kylo Ren and Rey costumes to discuss. So, Jay put these in the VIP group earlier on. There's a look at what Kylo Ren and what Rey are going to look like in The Last Jedi.
So these are from Battlefront 2, right?
Yeah.
So they're the pre-order, I think they're pre-order bonuses.
Yeah.
They're sort of costumes for Kylo Ren and Rey for Battlefront 2.
So we see Kylo Ren maskless.
Yep.
Which lends...
That's the kind of what we suspected from the teaser, wasn't it?
Yeah. That he
was ditching the mask.
He may not need that mask now because the monster's on the outside.
He smashed his helmet because he's realised that he's just trying to live up to an idol that doesn't exist for him.
Yeah.
And also that cloak he's wearing is rumoured to be one of Vader's cloaks.
That is the rumour, isn't it?
The original trilogy. Which makes
it looks more materially than vinily.
Mm.
Yeah.
It looks almost like a wool type coat rather than a vinyl one.
Yeah. It could be something to do with how old it is, perhaps.
And it's been in a fire.
It's been in a fire. But it also makes me wonder whether we're going to see Vader's castle on Mustafar again in this film. And maybe Kylo.
I'd be very surprised if we don't, to be honest.
Kylo would be in there.
I think that's why we saw it in Rogue One, and that's why that could be one of the reasons why it wasn't title carded.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I still think there's also the element of these are the known locations, the rebels they know of stuff happening there.
Yeah,
and the rest is all kind of off the books.
Yes, yeah, that's the other thing. It's like we said when we watched Rogue One that it was almost like a mission log. Yeah, and they could document everything they were doing, but they couldn't document everything the Empire were doing.
Yeah, so they got Wabani and they've got Scarif and they've got the Ring of Kafrene.
Yeah.
All that stuff because they sent a rebel agent there in some form. Whereas with Mustafar
and Lamu,
they don't have that. And Lamu, they don't have that.
No. But I like Kylo's look here. I think it's very reminiscent of Anakin. And where they've placed the scar now, they've moved the scar, haven't they?
I actually do think I'm kind of with Rian Johnson. I think it's
much better, yeah. And
that scar though is a bit laughable, isn't it?
It's not. It doesn't seem like it should. We haven't seen the bottom half of it yet.
No, because his face was covered.
If you get even close to a lightsaber, it's lopping something off.
Well, she did catch him, kind of,
a glancing blow.
Basically, I think the idea is that she caught him with a glancing blow, kind of, as she disarmed.
Like the tip.
Yeah, exactly. She just gave him the tip.
Cute. And what do we make of Rey here? Because this is a dramatic.
Make a scarf, a hat, a brooch.
Oh, a little airplane joke. A bonus points to anyone else who gets that.
Yeah.
This looks great, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
This one I'll take with a pinch of salt.
At all, does it?
No, this one I'll take with a slight pinch of salt because I think she's going to spend most of the film in the Arc 2 gear.
Yeah.
I don't actually think we're going to see her in this get-up in Last Jedi. I think if she's in this outfit, it's because she's made her way back from Arc 2 for Episode 9.
Right.
And talking about lopping something off, that lightsaber, she's got one slip with her left hand there, and that left arm's gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you remember what Anakin's robes looked like in Episode 2?
Yep.
Not a million miles away from this.
Okay.
Kind of.
Sort of a bit darker.
But sort of, like a kind of, rather than a black, a dark brown.
Yeah.
What you mean when they're doing the lift thing in the ship?
What? No, that's episode 3.
That's episode 3.
Oh, that's episode 3. Yes, sorry, I'm one episode out, and I don't remember it then.
Yeah,
Geonosis and
this is very reminiscent with the darker sort of tunic and the all the leather and stuff. It's less like sort of Obi-Wan's.
But that's not what she lands on.
No,
Arc 2.
No,
She's
no.
got that other number on.
This looks like this is Act 3 sort of stuff for her. And I hear there's a lot of variants. Like Luke's look in the trailer that we saw. I heard the guys on MSW referring to it as the garbage bag look, or the trash bag look. But he's going to have something that looks a little bit more like Count Dooku's.
Okay. So which limb is she losing, guys? Because she's going to lose a limb. She's got to. If you're going to do that rhyming Scooby.
Well, it's the right hand then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of has to be, isn't it?
I hope not. I hope they don't do it, and not because she's a girl and she don't deserve it, but it's too much of a callback.
Yeah, you can. There are ways of putting her in, giving her harm without taking a limb off. She can be sort of wounded and kind of she could favour one side more. She could walk with a limp. These are all ways of means of doing it without.
Sorry, Rob. Is there anything in canon that says that when you've chosen your kyber crystal and you've got your lightsaber, that actually you can't ever lop something of yourself off because it will protect you and stop? Because it kind of makes sense, isn't it? Why would it? You can't. Otherwise, all those younglings would all be hopping around.
Yeah, I've always put that down as training. We haven't seen it yet. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, does it?
No, but wouldn't it make sense that a kyber crystal wouldn't let you hurt yourself with it?
Yeah, it would. It depends how far you want to go with the sort of sentience of those things.
Yeah.
If they are
sorry, just chucking it in there.
Yeah. It does make sense, you're right. But as far as I know, there's nothing in canon.
No. I can see a foot coming off of her.
Really?
That much? 18 inches?
Yeah. Yeah, half a leg. Well, once you've lost your foot, you might as well go the whole leg. It ain't doing a lot, is it?
Words of wisdom from Steve there.
I hope we don't.
It's true, though.
I hope we don't see that.
At least with an arm, you can still use it. Once you can't walk if you haven't got a foot, you might as well have the whole leg and weigh less.
Just have wheels.
It's an instant diet.
All right, let's move on from these pictures. And there's a great little insight into wardrobe there for the new movie. I do enjoy it. So the big news this week, I guess, was that Star Wars Episode 9 is going to be released in May of 2019 and finally give up the Christmas release spot. I've got a very particular opinion on this, but guys, how do you feel about it?
Well, we said earlier that is there scope for 2 movies a year? I think brilliant, but you guys weren't so keen.
Well, no, it's not so much for my benefit that I'm not so keen. It's for the families who can only justify a trip to the cinema every couple of months because of the price.
Yeah, but there's no kid alive that wouldn't starve himself for a couple of months so he could see Star Wars.
I don't think that makes it okay, Steve. Call me old-fashioned. People do.
Call me a bluff old traditionalist.
Exactly. Call me a bluff old traditionalist. But I do think that kids should, try and get at the very least the staple.
Well, they just have to not have any of the concessions when they're there. Then that way they'll save millions
of pounds. That's part of the movie trip. That's part of the deal for kids. For adults, I can take or leave it, but for kids, I can understand why that'd be part of it. I think the other thing as well is I think that they've got a Marvel movie coming out in May as well, and I think they're trying a little. This is your problem.
This is my problem.
Is it the Disney sort of trying to own a month?
No, not necessarily. I don't have any issue with them being the dominant a dominant presence at any point in the calendar. I just think that
they're a successful business,
Christmas is a nice clean stage for Star Wars, and it's been clean since Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings all buggered off and left it. So
buggered off.
Now that slot's been filled by Star Wars for the past few years, and I think it's done sterling numbers, and there's nothing there to bother it. But you bring it to the summer, and you've got superheroes galore. You've got Transformers, left, right, and centre, Pirates movies, left, right, and centre. I just think that these things will inevitably end up cannibalising each other's box office. And it won't be a clear split. It's not like one audience is just going to migrate to Star Wars because suddenly you put Star Wars in there as an option. Star Wars will suffer as a result of it. I can't help but think. And then there's we're corrupting the promotional cycle as well. Whereas now you've got Celebration that can start the gears turning in the summer, or like now. We're starting it in the second quarter of the year, and it's going to propel the promotion for Star Wars all the way up to the Christmas release. And if you drop a movie in May, are you going to do a Celebration the month before? Or do you pull Celebration forward to January or February when people don't have any money because they're just getting over Christmas?
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be a bit of a misstep, I think.
At the moment, there's this lovely synergy of you drop a Celebration in the summer and movie in the winter, and on the years where you got a Skywalker Saga entry, you get D23 as well. So you get the Celebration D23 big event movie.
What have you got the year after this? You've got Avatar, then 4 films in 6 years. 4 years,
right.
Sorry, is it? So no, it isn't. It's longer than that, but I can't remember exactly. Aren't they preparing for that? They're all in December.
At the moment, they're in December.
Well, no, the release dates are December, and specific dates in December, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, at the moment, Cameron hasn't made those movies yet. They're not a thing yet.
No, but to give out a specific date, that's pretty... He normally sticks to what he wants, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the trouble is, it's not just up to James Cameron. I mean, I know what you mean. He can go in it intending, right, that is the day I'm going to ship it no matter what. And things can, forces can happen that are out of his control that can delay a film. It's not just down to James Cameron being late with something. It can be down to, ADR can take longer.
James Cameron's never late. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Congratulations. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Call back to the rap battle.
Anyway, yeah. But, there are so many processes in going into a process of delivering a product. And I mean, I can speak to a bit of this in a completely unrelated market, but there are so many forces in the release of any product to market that are beyond the original creator. So I think, he can have he can have the absolute best intentions to release on, for, I don't know what the dates are, I didn't see, but let's say May the 6th, 2021. That can be his date he wants to hit no matter what. He's got a decent amount, he's got a huge amount of experience in the industry, so he can anticipate probably most things, let's be reasonable, but you can never fully anticipate every single risk, and things might, like a computer crashing can add hours to your, especially when you're talking about something like as tech heavy as Avatar, a computer going, a couple of computers crashing can add days to your
computing.
Understand what I mean? That he can sort of, with all the love in the world to James Cameron, he can only do so much. It's only the process up to him. And it might be he might have a hand in a significant chunk of it, but he can't control every little bit, and he can't, everything's going to go right every time and stuff.
Well, nothing's gone wrong for him yet, even Piranha, which is awesome.
Let's not disappear down that rabbit hole again. So are we saying... Are we saying that this is a good thing that he's moving out of the way of Avatar, or that they're moving out of Avatar's way, Steve? Is that how you're perceiving this?
Yeah, because nothing's going to hurt their bottom line more in the following 4 years than being in the same month as Avatar, the biggest grossing movie of all time, even bigger than Star Wars. Boom.
Am I being an arrogant Star Wars fanboy when I say that I think if they stood their ground, he would move?
I don't think. I think he would. He wouldn't have. Well, that's a good point. Why has he come out and put it in December before they'd even said May 2019?
There you go. So it makes you think that maybe it's not.
So he's made them move.
Related.
Not
I
the
see
other
what
way
you mean.
around.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it had no relation whatsoever.
He did stand his ground. I mean, he's got the December 18 slot for Avatar, the original, in 2009. So why shouldn't he have it for Avatar 2? And Star Wars, in fairness, Star Wars has had its. It's done 2 films now, and it's had its way, isn't it?
Well, Last Jedi will be 3 at this time of the year, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there'll be another one before 19. Oh, no, there won't. Gee, are we in? Blimey, we're almost dead.
That's the spirit.
Well, yeah, that's probably a little bit darker than I
Lord,
think
man.
you needed to go.
So
this is the last. This year's is the last Christmas release, and then it's
time for
May.
them to move over. I think for a while.
Oh,
They have got an industry to look after outside of Star Wars as well.
There is that. There's them.
Maybe there's been secret
there you
mutterings.
go. There you go. Maybe the December is to not cannibalize something they're announcing in the TV realm.
Yeah,
Right.
or maybe they're just thinking, you know what? Let's get out of Avatar's way because we don't want to share box office with them.
Or it could be that they're going to move some other event series to the Christmas slot.
Yeah.
And
be.
move Star Wars.
Indiana
so that
Jones?
it
Oh, no,
dominate-
the Indiana Jones
that's-
is in that list, wasn't it?
That's 2020 in July.
Yeah, July makes more sense for Indy because it's going to be, let's be fair, it's going to be somewhere sunny.
Is that going to have Shia LaBeouf in it?
Almost certainly not.
Yeah, almost
Why?
certainly
I
not.
like Shia LaBeouf.
He's gone
I know
insane, Steve.
that he's not. Have you
He's
seen him
lost
in Fury? He's awesome in that.
I know he's a great actor, but he seems to have gone insane outside of the acting space. He seems to be, he's gone a very odd.
Don't forget, everything we get about actors is from the media, and the media are as contrite as anything.
Yeah, but if you watch him do this stuff,
that the
then
right
you
word, Marc?
can only interpret it a certain number of ways. I
That
tell
is
you what,
right,
I will
yeah.
say he's got a great sense of humour when it comes to sending himself up.
Yeah,
Give him
and
credit for that.
I think he got slated for that semi-porn movie he did, which perhaps wasn't.
Nymphomaniac, Lars von Trier.
Yeah, it probably wasn't the best of.
No.
I haven't seen
But
I haven't seen it, by the way, just so we're clear.
There's other stuff he did which is sort of plagiarising other creators.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
Dan Clowes, the creator of Ghost World, and he plagiarised something that he'd done. Shire's been a naughty boy over the years.
He's had his like I say, he's had his moments of greatness, but he's also had some weird kind of unusual behaviour to go along with it. It's not to say that I'm being flippant and kind of hyperbolic when I say that he's gone literally insane. I don't mean that. Of course I don't. But he does exhibit, even allowing for Hollywood weirdness. And there's a story about Johnny Depp in the news this week that kind of typified it to me. He still seems like he's got a slightly weirder than average working, outside his working life.
Yeah, he's deliberately. Shire's deliberately eccentric, I think, and maybe it's because he's having trouble sort of.
Doesn't eccentric come with the territory? Honestly, if I was an actor,
I think it probably does, to a degree.
I would be as mad.
Steve, you're not an actor, and I think you're almost there.
Yeah, that's what. If that would push me into, like, I'd be selling my own poo on eBay and expecting it to sell for thousands.
Mm.
And why wouldn't it?
And why wouldn't I'm already doing that, but I'm selling your poo. I think he's with Shire. I think he's probably having difficulty because he was a child.
Maybe not skimming off the top. Sorry.
Because he was a child actor, he's probably had a bit of issue sort of maintaining
normality.
A degree of privacy, some normality. Look at somebody I really admire, Sia, the singer. She wears that black and white wig now just to sort of disguise.
She took it off recently.
Yeah, she takes it off all the time. She goes to press events but if she's on camera, if she's like doing a red carpet or doing a performance, she'll wear it so that the majority of people don't know who she is because she can't handle the attention.
Yeah.
So she creates this persona. The persona takes all the weight of that attention, and when she sheds the persona and goes about her normal life, she's free.
Yeah.
She's free of the burden of all that stuff that comes with being a Tom Cruise or an Angelina Jolie, because they can never turn that off. And I think with Shia,
and it changes them.
Yeah, and I think with Shia, he's not a stupid guy. He's a very intelligent man, and I think he's found a way to create a persona that can shoulder the burden of all of that rubbish that goes along with being a Hollywood A-lister. And when he switches it off, he walks away from it and probably has a better time of dealing with his private life.
Yeah, he seems to have been making an effort to distance himself from this public eye again in the last couple of weeks. I think
it's calmed down a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not so much stuff about him in the.
But to your initial question, Steve, I don't know if he's going to be in. All we know at the moment is that Spielberg's directing and Harrison Ford is going to be returning as Indy.
Yeah,
but we don't know anything else, and I don't think Shia would be welcome.
I don't
back
think Shia's
after what he said about Spielberg previously.
Yeah, that was it, wasn't it? It was like he said some stuff about Spielberg that was less than kind.
He blamed the last Indiana Jones film on him, basically.
Yeah,
which is probably true, but
probably you don't say it. Yeah,
you don't bite the hand that feeds, right?
It's like Hayden coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, the prequels are rubbish. It's all George's fault."
Yeah, just pointing at him on stage. It was him.
He wouldn't be. He wouldn't be doing that. And also, they're not rubbish, but
no,
Anyway,
before it gets misconstrued, Stephen.
Yeah, we had a meeting, Steve.
While you were off, you should show up for every episode and cast a vote.
Oh, watch him again then. Now,
the last thing we're going to jump over this Rosario Dawson thing because she's been talking about playing Ahsoka Tano again. I covered that a couple of days ago on the Kessel Run, but the last thing.
I have a really quick point on that, which is just that I would like to see her in Star Wars, but I don't want her to be constrained by another existing character. I'd like her to play something new.
That's a fair point.
And also, I think Paul maybe made the point. It may have even been a tumbling saber, actually, now I think about it. But I heard a point somewhere by somebody really clever about how it won't be good enough.
Yeah.
Because the fans who devour Ahsoka stuff hold her up to this kind of, they put her on this pedestal, and any performance given by a live action actor won't be good enough. And you think about for every person who says, "Oh, she did a good job," there'll be somebody complaining that it wasn't Ashley Eckstein, and there'll be somebody complaining that,
of course,
this the CG was off or whatever. And
it's like we said this about Woody Harrelson playing. I forget who the character was.
Oh, Gareth Shrike, wasn't it? Supposedly.
Yeah, no, it was. Who did everyone want him to play? People are screaming at their podcasts now, aren't they? He's supposed to be playing this. He pops up a lot. He's like a bounty hunter who pops up a lot in the animated series.
Thank you.
No, people were kind of keen.
Cad Bane?
No, not Cad Bane. He's a really cool character, though.
Yeah,
it's right on the tip of my tongue as well.
Hondo
Ohnaka, yeah. So people wanted, desperately wanted Woody Harrelson to be playing Hondo Ohnaka, but there's no way he'd ever pull that off. And like you said about Rosario playing Ahsoka, he would be constrained by that role and have to fit into that role. Thing.
It's not so much that they couldn't pull it off, is that it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Even if they pulled it off, it'd still be criticised as not good enough by somebody who's decided it should be done this way. And, Woody Harrelson would probably do his own voice rather than a Hondo voice. So the Hondo voice wouldn't be in there, and so it wouldn't feel like Hondo. And
so what's the
probably
point?
Wouldn't look the part. Exactly.
Make an original character.
If you bring in Woody and then you motion capture him and then you also take his voice away and replace it with the guy from Rebels, why even bother having Woody Harrelson?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
And this is where we are now. We're a couple of steps back from that scenario with Rosario, where she wants to play Ahsoka. She hasn't been cast in a Star Wars movie yet.
No.
And we're thinking about what role she's going to play. She wants to play Ahsoka. So she's going to that character. And I'm kind of intrigued by it, and I would enjoy it, I think.
I think she'd be good. It's just, like I say, it wouldn't matter how good she was. It would just be...
A percentage of people would complain,
Yeah, and they, even if they're not numerous, they're loud.
Yeah.
In my experience, the ones that complain the hardest
always
like
the
that.
Voices of dissent, isn't it, that come through loud.
Yeah, and also there's like the kind of serial grievance mongers who aren't happy about anything, and they always find the negative in every situation, and they're always the ones who shout the loudest because that's all they spend their time doing because their lives are otherwise kind of, whatever.
Empty.
Well, I didn't want to be the one to deliver that last mark. So,
yeah, sorry,
I think
you used a Jedi mind trick on me there.
Yeah, it happens. But you can always say that there's a really good bit in the middle that was cut for the purposes of Talk Star Wars, and actually the full line is very complimentary.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Do a Last Jedi theory on it.
So the last thing we're going to talk about this evening, very briefly, is that Sam Esmail, the man behind Mr. Robot, is attached to a future Star Wars project.
He's actually officially attached now.
It's not been announced. Expect that to be announced at D23, but he is taking meetings with Lucasfilm, and the rumours are that he has been he's been considered for a Star Wars story, and somebody even said possibly the Obi-Wan story. But I think that's pretty much because that's the thing at the moment, isn't it? That everyone seems to want. I think he'd be more suited to something like Star Wars Underworlds.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Something bounty hunter, something like Cad Bane,
like something 1313 themed,
like 1313. Yeah, the cancelled video game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I just realised, Mark,
it's amazing.
You didn't get any Obi-Wan stuff at Celebration, did you?
No, we didn't get any. We didn't get any future project stuff. We didn't even get a look at Han Solo. We didn't get anything.
Yeah, that's very.
It was all
strange.
about 40th anniversary and Last Jedi, wasn't it?
That was it. And the wrap up of Rebels.
It was a bit naff for that reason, wasn't it?
Well, no, I think it was good.
It served a purpose well, which is to not take away attention from the 40th anniversary and from Last Jedi. But
it could have been.
I get what you mean,
stuff.
Steve. If you travel all that way, hoping for something, and then you don't get it, and you don't even get a whiff of it, then I can understand it could be frustrating for some people.
But it's not like we're in that cycle this year. Where in July we got the D23, which is Disney's Expo, and Lucasfilm was slated to appear there alongside Marvel and a couple of other things.
And Kathleen's hinted as much, hasn't she?
Yeah, so there will be announcements. She said expect announcements in the summer, and there will be a slate of future projects announced, and it would be much better to do that in a setting like D23, where you're not going to steal the thunder of some of these important things, and that's not going to drown out the 40th anniversary panel. And it's not going to overshadow the Last Jedi trailer. But what it would do is it would blow Rebels out of the water. And Rebels has its sign-off at this event this year at Celebration.
True. Yeah. But also think of it from this point of view. At D20, is D23 more like an earnings call? Or is it an expo?
No, it's a proper expo where you'll have...
Proper convention.
Yeah. I mean, Harrison was at the
last one.
Like a
trade show. Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah. It's more like a trade show. It's more in that respect. It is more like a trade show, but you have talent on stage.
Yeah, could they announce it in more of a corporate way of like this is coming?
Yeah,
because the alternative is that Celebration we would demand an image or a teaser or a trailer and we'd be happy unless we got it. Well, whereas if you D23, they could get away with just making it very much a matter of fact.
Yeah,
just delivery of like this is happening. Well, and everybody just goes, oh my god!
The last D23, they showed us that promotional art for The Force Awakens. Yeah. That's what came out of the last D23. And Harrison was on stage talking about how it felt to be back as Han Solo, and he got a standing ovation, and he was moved by that. So this year, I think that what we'll find is we've done the thing where we've paid tribute to George and we've paid tribute to Carrie, and we've seen The Last Jedi.
That's the other thing it would have taken away from as well.
Yeah,
because Carrie's in all the things they mentioned. Carrie or Leia has appeared in or around them.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Obi-Wan movie, we know she wouldn't turn up.
She wouldn't, no. So I think D23, you're going to get another look at Last Jedi, but that won't be centre stage. Han Solo, they'll probably show some footage, and we'll definitely get our first look at Alden Ehrenreich in costume, and some stills from the shoot.
That'd be great.
And then I think we'll get announcements about probably some stuff about Episode 9, but we'll definitely get the forward-facing slate announced. Star Wars, the 2020 Star Wars story, and perhaps stuff beyond that as well.
Mm-hmm. With
tentative dates. But definitely an announcement, like a mission statement of what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in July. I think that's the 14th through the 16th.
Yeah, like I say, you can get away with a much more kind of, if you wanted to, you could get away with a much more matter of fact, cold business like presentation at D23 than you ever could stand to do a celebration.
Exactly. Yeah.
Putting the cynical pants on.
Cynical pants, hat, vest.
They are comfy.
Well, I like Sam Esmail. I like Mr. Robot. Somebody definitely needs to come up with a snappy and intelligent joke about Mr. Droid, because we don't have robots in Star Wars.
That's true. Yeah. Mr. Lobot.
Mr. Lobot. Well done. I really want to see...
There you go. There's your movie as well.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's what he's doing. Well, everything worked out well with that then. Yeah, bring it on. Let's see him. And let's see him direct as well, because he's done a handful of episodes of Mr. Robot, so he can handle himself. Steve, have you watched Mr. Robot?
No, I haven't. Maybe I'll try and catch it. What is it? I'm really ignorant to it. Is it an animation or?
No, it's live action TV show. Christian Slater's in there. Very good.
Oh, I love Christian Slater.
It's very good. It will try and watch it spoiler free.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. No, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon
Prime.
Oh,
Amazon
Prime. Okay.
But you can binge it. Try and do it without looking at anything. Don't see any spoilers. Going as cold as possible.
Yeah, Steve, if you could find a way to stay off social media, that'd be great, mate. It's just for your own benefit.
Yeah, because you're all over.
Come on, Mark. Look at you telling.
It works best viewing it cold, because that's how I saw it, and I saw it spoiler free, and it's just first class. He did really well.
Okay.
And having that sort of talent on a Star Wars project, thumbs up.
All right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, right, we're at 2 hours. Let's wrap this up.
Already?
You got anything else you need to say, guys, before we say goodnight?
No.
Something popped into my head briefly, but it's gone again just as quickly, so I guess it wasn't important.
Yeah, we've left some stuff out there this week. Like, there's some news about the Han Solo shoot in the Canary Islands for a few weeks across certain dates, but that's all pretty businessy stuff. It's not as exciting as looking at these, getting a sneak peek at costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's much more entertaining. All right.
Indeed.
Well, if there's nothing else to say, Paul wished he could join us today, but technical difficulties kept him from doing so. We'll hop on again soon. I think in a couple of weeks, guys, I might have a window opening up where we could possibly do another feature comms, if you're up for it.
Okay.
Maybe,
of course.
Perhaps a Rogue One.
Cool. Yeah.
I know we need to do Jedi. That's definitely on the slate, but with Rogue One being out, it might be nice if we could get that laid down.
Rogue One would be nice. What would also be nice is doing our post Rogue One and New Hope.
Yes, that would be good too.
As well, that'd be cool. Because I don't think I've watched it again since Rogue One properly. So I'd be interested to rewatch Rogue One and to watch Rogue One again, because I watched it recently, Rogue One. Because obviously, it's Rogue One.
Yeah.
But what I haven't done since is go back and do a New Hope with that in mind.
That would be good.
That would be good.
Okay.
Which one would you prefer to see first? Maybe that's our next Twitter poll. Jedi or Rogue One?
What? And we'll do it as a poll.
We haven't had a Twitter poll in a while.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
We said we'd make them, relevant.
Make them relevant.
This couldn't be more relevant. We let the fans choose.
Okay. We'll check let's get a date pinned down, and then we'll put that out, and we'll see what people want us to do next.
Deal.
Good stuff. All right. Okay, well, thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars again this week. Don't forget to leave us that 5-star review in iTunes and take advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. Whatever you write in there, I'll read as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote your blog or your podcast or your YouTube channel or whatever you do, let us know through the medium of the 5-star review, and we will promote that for you. You can email us your questions and comments at talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on our social networks, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more. And with that said, guys, where can people find you on the internet between shows?
Steve, you're right, mate.
Yeah, you can get me on Twitter, Stephen_Ware, or Twitter and or YouTube on Wild About Nature.
Excellent. Rob?
Cool. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision, and you can also find everything else I do besides Talk Star Wars at emotionally14.com, and you can also search Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes for Emotionally14 and find out about all the cool stuff I produce.
Well said, sir. You'll find Paul at moviescorenews.com, and he's at moviescorenews on Twitter. I am at Talk Star Wars on Twitter, and you'll find everything else I do at talkstarwars.co.uk, where you will find other exciting things from all sorts of contributors now, we're really starting to grow out to include other members of the Commonwealth and more. It's an exciting time. Talking of the Commonwealth, you're going to hear a promo spot for them soon. I urge you to go and check out all of their shows. Everyone's producing high quality content and they are first class people. Okay, we'll try and bring Paul with us next week so you guys have a full house. So until then, wish us luck. We'll see you next time.
And the force be with you.
Ta-da.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
The Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
It's
a wrap!
It's a wrap.
Let's talk about Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items that you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. You have until the 19th at 9 PM Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cut-off happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars and save $3 off your new subscription today.